Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Hairy Chats. It's my absolute privilege to introduce Candy Shaw. Candy is not only a wonderful friend, an incredible mentor, but the most sensational woman I think I've ever had the privilege of meeting. She's developed a brand called Sunlights Balayage, as well as lots of tools that are suitable for balayage highlights. This is a remarkable product which is now sold worldwide. This woman is absolutely incredible. The amount of awards she has won, the amount of people that she's influenced, and I had the opportunity to sit back and hear her whole story. So just grab a coffee now, take time out and listen to Hairy Chats with Candy Shaw. Hi everyone, it's Sharon Blaine here, and I'm so excited to be chatting to the wonderful Candy Shaw in our Hairy Chats podcast. Welcome, Candy.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm happy to be here.
This is so impromptu because we were trying to get hold of you a couple of days ago, and we've just managed to snare half an hour of Candy's time. And as you can imagine, for those people that know Candy, she's an incredibly busy, successful, amazing person and a dear friend. Candy, how did you get started in all of this?
Well, my story's kind of funny. My father has been a hairdresser for over 60 years. He was a competition hairdresser. And all of my life, I wanted to do hair. It's all I ever knew. It's all I ever wanted to do. And I really couldn't make it well in grade school. I was actually dyslexic and struggled a lot. So I realized early on that I could bring my scissors to school and I could actually cut the hair in the locker room and trade for homework because I couldn't actually do my studies. And in my school that I went to, they had a hair code for boys. Mm-hmm. And they would get in trouble and they would have to go to detention if their hair was not to code. So I quickly, like I said, realized that, wow, this is a cottage industry for me. And in the 7th grade, I started cutting hair and have been, next year will be 40 years in this industry.
Wow. So were you ever your dad's model in competitions by any chance?
No, but my mother was. And my mother was his makeup artist as well. Mm-hmm. And so it was funny because my mother could do the front of the hair as well as my dad. So she would comb the front of her hair. My dad would work on the back of the hair. She'd be doing her makeup all in the same time while they were competing.
Wow. I don't think that'd be done today though.
No.
I think one of the rules is models are not allowed to touch hair.
Yeah.
So then once you got into the industry, you're taken over from your dad in the salon, which, you know, as we walk through the salon today, what an amazing setup. It's just, you know, such a compliment to you to keep it going.
Yes. Well, you know, I told my dad early on when I bought the business from him that I was going to make my own mistakes, that I was going to come in and I wasn't going to do business as he had always run it, that I needed to look at it from a different perspective, obviously the next generation. And we have been in this location almost 40 years. We're going to celebrate that anniversary. And since then, we've expanded twice over the original salon size. And then I opened an academy over 25 years ago where I teach French cutting and obviously balayage. And then that began to morph into becoming a manufacturer, and hence the birth of Sunlights Balayage.
Wow. So what do you think you've done differently as a business person to really keep this going? Because you've got lovely young staff there, they look immaculate, they're so courteous. You know, in this day and age with all of these sort of, these sort of things are not necessarily easily found, how do you feel you attract these people?
Well, for one, I still work behind the chair, which I think is very unique. My son and my husband tell me constantly, you don't need to work behind the chair, but I really feel that I'm leading by example to my people, and I come and I get in the trenches with them, and I listen to their stories, and I listen to their suggestions, and I try to be one with each other, and I try to empower my people to be their own managers. And I think that it makes it a lot easier to run a company and when you're in the company.
Yeah.
And so that's been one of my secrets to success, I think, for one. But also I love to do hair, and I don't want to give that up, because I think it keeps me positioned to understand my student and their struggles and what they're going through. And so when I get in the classroom, it's easy for me to know what they mean when they are saying I have this or that struggle as a hairstylist.
So do you think this is why a lot of salons are really struggling today, is because the owners just want to just count the money and not be hands-on and getting dirty, so to speak?
Well, you know, Sharon, I probably will get some hate mail for saying this, because I have a lot of really great friends in the salon industry that own very, very successful businesses. But I think a lot of the independent contracting and the booth renting as it is a byproduct of bad leadership.
Yes.
And I feel that a lot of salon owners did dial it in, so to speak, rose, became very successful, and then sort of rested on their laurels. And because of that, now, you know, people want to be their own bosses. They want to be their own entrepreneurs, and I can't really blame them. However, rather than being cynical about it, or rather than being mad about it, I decided to get active about it. So I sit on various committees and boards to try to attract great people to this hair industry that I love so much. But more importantly, I take that as a charge for my own self as a salon owner to really rise up and to be different and to be progressive and to be, you know, make sure education is the foundation of my business.
Well, to be sustainable for this many years, for a salon that's been going on forever, and you taking the baton and still keeping that and growing and expanding and keeping relevant, I mean, that's pretty much the key, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I like to listen to the youth. You know, a lot of people complain about them. I think they have a lot of great ideas. And I like to hear what they have to say, and I always listen with intent to learn. And I think that it's a testament to my father's upbringing and how he ran this business. And he was not a leader by a finger, you know, he didn't point the finger. He always led by, you know, bringing people together. And I think if you create a community and a culture of love and passion for our wonderful craft of hairdressing, then I think people just really don't want to leave you for the wrong reasons.
They just gravitate to you, don't they?
Yeah.
In fact, I think they'd be fairly fearful of leaving, because they probably know well and truly they're not going to get that nurturing.
Right. Well, it's very different in the States than it is in Australia, and in the sense of how some hairdressers are paid, you know, via salary or via hourly. You know, here, you know, you take home half of what you kill, you know, and so whatever it is you do in a day is what it is that your earning potential is. So we have a really wonderful formula through French cutting and balayage and how we train our people to be great business owners of their own chair. So it's a microcosm of an ownership within a greater umbrella. And so when we create that for the staff, and they have these enormous earning potentials, they really don't find a need to go anywhere else. Then we top that off with great educators like you who come in and teach them. And we top that off with, you know, great photo shoots, wonderful shows, and travel. And it's a perfect formulation.
It's what everybody wants, isn't it?
For happiness.
Look, I'm quite sure just listening to this, to those folks listening to this, they're going to be just knocking on your door, and you're probably going to pick up another, you know, 20 odd hairdressers that want to be on your train riding with you.
Well, I'd love to think that, but that's very very sweet of you to say. But the reality is you know, we're very particular in who we let into the family for reasons of discipline and you know, someone who's really going to drink the Kool-Aid and follow in the culture. You know, I don't I stay as far and wide from divas as I can.
Yeah.
And I don't need to hire somebody who's so incredibly experienced. I would much rather take and train my own experience.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Now this French cutting, I am fully aware that the French do cut differently to the English.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the English is particularly precise. And I did happen to watch a video recently where you were doing a haircut on a client with some music rocking around, and you were doing it within a time frame. And I watched it, and I saw a few reactions, and I'm sure you saw some of them were positive.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of negative ones because, you know, they were obviously not understanding what was going on. But what I got from that was, yes, I could see you were actually lifting it in a certain way, elevating it in a certain way, and it was very clean and so on. So when I broke it down in my head, I thought, yeah, that's pretty technical,
Yes.
but in a very quick, concise sort of a way. So can you sort of just explain a little further on that?
Well, the easiest way to describe French cutting is that we always cut everything on top of the hand, not inside the hand.
Yes.
So we don't do palm to palm cutting, we cut on top of the hand. So it's very fast. We hold our scissor all the way down to the base of our finger, like a tailor who cuts fabric.
Yeah.
When you hit the sweet spot of a scissor, it glides and it goes fast versus chop, chop, chop. It's, very quick. And so we build our shapes from the top down, falling perfectly like a shingle on a roof. Mm-hmm. So it's just a different approach to how we follow head shape.
Yeah.
Now, some would say, well, because it's fast, maybe it's not as clean. That's not necessarily true, because in the British world of thinking, you have a 0, a 45, and a 90 degree. Mm-hmm. In my world, I just have an interior, an exterior, and a mesh, which is, basically square inside and outside.
Yeah.
And so it's just how we approach the hair, how we get our guide, and how we follow the shape of the head. Mm-hmm. But overall, the French look gives the guest in the salon 4 to 5 different ways to wear each haircut. Yeah. So there's a lot more versatility in the way the layers fall and where the layers live. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So overall, for the layman or for the guest in your salon, they like it because it's wash and wear hair. Yeah. It's easy. It's fundamentally very wearable and very commercial. It's not weird, wacky, and wild or crazy haircut, or a hat on the head, so to speak. Yeah. But more importantly, to the stylist, it enables them to work smarter, not harder. Yeah. And it gives them the ability to work a lot quicker behind the chair, which ultimately leads to more dollars.
As well. And that's what I love about you. You're so business focused. Since I've been hanging around you for the last couple of days, the one thing I know that's unique to you and your education is that you definitely deliver education, but you also deliver it alongside the whys and hows to actually make money from what you're delivering. And obviously that's something you work with your staff. Do you have a certain time frame for each guest?
As far as the guests in the salon, we book a haircut on a 30-minute time frame. Mm-hmm. We book a balayage on a 1-hour time frame. Uh-huh. And of course, there are people who need more time, or we all know that every salon has the same type of fluctuation. We also work with we also work with the some that work in the assistant program. Mm-hmm. So they have the ability to have some help, whether it's with shampooing or whether it's with applying a base color, whether it's blow drying or helping overall with the consultation of a guest. Yeah. So I would say, just to put it in a very quick formula, a person who is behind the chair by themselves working an 8-hour day should have the ability to do anywhere from 8 to 12 guests if they're pushing themselves. Yes. Every time you add an assistant, you can add at least another potentially 4 to 5 guests to that formula. Right. And so we have some that will work with 2 assistants, mm-hmm. maybe even as many as 3. And back in my day, it was up to 4 or 5 assistants when I would do 35 guests in a day. But So we have a formulation of how they get someone from stem to stern, just like a chef in a kitchen, doesn't necessarily cook everything. You have a sous chef, and you have the hostess, and you have the busboy, and the waiter, and you have the person who delivers the plate.
Yeah, so it's really no different, is it?
No, it's not.
No, that's really interesting.
It's a different way of looking at it.
And the one thing that I have to talk to you about is you have just gone gangbusters when it comes to your Sunlights Balayage. I mean, I think we spoke about this probably at the very beginning when you were just getting going, and everything was in that little box, and it was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I think this is probably 3 years ago. How long has it actually been going for now?
Well, Sunlights celebrated its 5th birthday last year in Chicago, where we actually launched it. It took me about 2 years in research and development to actually get the product up off the ground. But it's very young, and I'm happy to say I'm leaving this weekend to go over to travel the world some more and get into the Netherlands and to Holland and to do some more classes. We're now in 13 countries.
So why is that product different to somebody else's? Is it different? What's the story?
Well, you're sweet to ask, but I'm going to give you the quick story. Please. That I'm from Georgia. In Atlanta, Georgia, the natural resource is clay. Red Georgia clay. And so as I've been a balayage artist for over 25 years, I was painting hair with high concentrations of foil lighteners, which had high concentrations of silica. Silica is a sand. And sand, unfortunately, when you're painting hair, causes dotting and spotting in hair and little dot marks. And so it kind of occurred to me, why wouldn't I play around with a lightener and start putting an additive in it that could adhere to hair and just stick on the hair, and it would be hardened on the outside, not being dusty like a typical foil lightener would be, and then it would actually be able to lift on the inside and stay moist. And so I kind of came out with this concept and threw it to a chemist, and the rest, they say, is history. So kaolin is the main ingredient in Sunlights. And now, actually, Sharon, there's a kaolin shortage in North America because because not just because of Sunlights, but also because of every single color line that's now coming out with a clay-based lightener for balayage. But we were first to market. We were the original, and I think really why is Sunlights successful? I think it's because we have really great fundamental education, and that education of teaching people how to truly do their best possible work has really put us on the map.
Yeah. And like you were such a hit in Hair Expo. I mean, I think you've just ended up being the darling, filling the classes, standing on the stage. You just captivated everybody. Do you get exhausted doing all of that?
Well, is that one exhausted person asking another?
Well, I know what I feel, but you have that whole routine. I mean, this whole classroom setup. You're on stage. You've got a basin on stage.
Yeah.
The stuff that you did in Australia really sort of turned us upside down. We're used to seeing British hairdressers, maybe Sassoons, for example, come in and do their usual haircuts. Which, please, they're absolutely stunning.
Of course.
But, you just come in, you've got this American accent, this out there, in your face person.
Right.
And you just turned us upside down. I mean, everybody spoke about you, everybody loved your course. There was not one person that I spoke to that wasn't, you didn't even have to bring up your name. They were already talking about you. So you've left this incredible stamp there, as I'm sure you do every place you go.
Well, to answer the question, yes, it can be exhausting, but balance is important. I told you last night that I get 8 hours of sleep every night without fail if I can, because sleep and rest is very important to me. But I've always been a very high energy person. And if I don't have 9 or 10 things going at once, I'm kind of bored, to be honest. I'm not the person you want to take on vacation and sit down and do nothing for 5 days. I mean, I'm always trying to either fix something, figure something out, reverse engineer it, It's just how I'm built.
Yeah.
As far as my lovely family that I now call family in Australia, I think maybe what really permeated with the people there is just how down to earth and how simple what I was doing, even though it could seem very complicated and extravagant, but just how simple I break down business to the philosophy that my father has always taught me, and that is an acronym that I live by, and it's KISS, K-I-S-S, and it stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. Yeah. And so I think sometimes hairdressers, we're at fault because we think if we're going to do something, we have to be so far left or so far right from really how we are as people, because we feel our own egos might get in the way a bit of trying to show off, on a stage. Sharon, nobody can even hold a candle to what you do, on a stage, and what you bring, and the elegance and the grace in what you do in your work. But unfortunately, a lot of people try to live up to those expectations and they fall way short because they end up taking something that might be avant-garde and beautiful in your collection and making it look just weird and ugly in theirs. And so I think what I bring ultimately is a little taste of Southern hospitality.
Yeah. Which obviously went down very well.
Yeah, and all coupled up and tied in a bow with a roadmap to success, and how you can literally put your feet on the floor and come to my class, attend a class, and the next day actually go do it and facilitate what I taught you, rather than just kind of one and done.
It's just too overwhelming to even know where to start.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's what is key, isn't it? That simplicity. So we've been chatting a little bit since we've been together about the Insta famous person. Out there at the moment, every single person is doing something on Instagram, slapping some color on in some way. Mm-hmm. And I just cringe, I must say. I'm going to get a slap on the wrist for that comment. But to be honest, the sustainability of these people, and how they can continue to evolve, what they're offering, it really does make me wonder what our future looks like. I mean, you've got your feet right on the ground, you know exactly what you're delivering. What do you think is different to what you're doing compared to these people that are trying to be something that, Instagram is building and making them? Do they have a future out there, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a different mindset. I think, let's back up for a minute. Everyone that everyone that owns a camera is a photographer, right?
Yes.
And so there's a lot of industry skills that are being put to pasture because now someone can learn how to be an entrepreneur and figure it out and make it and do it. I mean, our biggest challenge right now in our industry is that kids don't want to go to beauty colleges and to beauty schools because they think they can learn it all on YouTube. Yeah. And I really feel like that is very damning to the disciplines of our industry. And it's a sad state of affairs. They say in America now, in the year 2026, we're going to have 1.3 million skill level jobs that we can't fill. Wow. Simply because people don't want to go to school to learn the technical skill to do it. So I think my answer is kind of twofold. I have a really great love for these kids who are out there trying to build themselves and using Instagram and certain digital marketing as a great platform and a great resource for the right education and for building their businesses and their own internal brands. Mm-hmm. However, there is another segment of that where I feel the influencer has, what's a good word? I think there's some that do a remarkable job of really giving us great content. Yeah. But then there's those who use and abuse it like anything else in life, and they kind of make us look silly. Yes. And they kind of make us look like we're all hair prostitutes, yes. Yes. And unfortunately, I think the sustainability of that is going to have some adverse effects on our business long term, because if you think about, if you have a child that is thinking about going into the hair industry, and you're the mother of this child, and you happen to do your research, and you see that this is the ideology that we are worshiping in our industry, you know, I might be not encouraging my child to go into this industry based on that, right?
That's
and
right.
so that's the part that I think we have a very moral, we've got to take our moral compass back. And our moral compass, we have to be proud of what we put out there.
Yes.
And not just put it out there for the sake of putting it out there.
Yeah.
And I think that if we dial it back a bit, that the cream will rise to the top, I'm hoping. You know, I get this question all the time. Well, Candy, do you think you're an influencer?
Oh, I think you're a very
And I say, well, you
influencer.
know, an influencer in today's world is really defined by how many followers you have.
Yes.
And I say, you know, that's really not where my belief system lies.
Yeah.
My belief system lies, and I'd rather have believers than followers.
Yeah.
I'd rather have engagement. I'd rather have people I'm talking to, I'm educating, I'm teaching, I'm helping, versus just saying I got a like because I got a like.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have to really, and if you're out there and you're an influencer, you know, please, you know, lead by example. Number
Yes.
one, lead
Yeah.
by example. Do things the right way. Do
Yeah.
things out of a good earned hard day's work. Do things because you're disciplined, you're hardworking, you are proud, you're graceful, not disgraceful. And because the younger generation is following you and they're watching you,
Yeah.
and they need you.
Yes.
We need you.
That's right. And if you are influencing people and you are building this amazing following, you know, it can be short-lived in a way, because I mean, there's many people over the time that I would follow, but after a while, this repetitive posting of the same look and the same thing and all of that, it's like, this is just ridiculous. I don't need to cram up my, you know, my
Feed.
life
Yeah.
with stuff like this.
Agreed.
And I do think those people and also it doesn't take long for someone with a little bit of nous to realize this is actually all a little bit phony and it's not skillful. It's not something you want to be engaged with. And that's the one thing I believe you are an influencer, and I don't think you have to be an influencer because of your likes. I think you are influencing people on the ground with your classes. I mean, that many people come into your classes every time. That's an influencer.
Well, and I would have to agree with you, certainly humbly, but I think that it's important that I just stay the course of who I am. And the challenge with social media is it makes people have too much FOMO, a fear of missing out, or if I'm not doing enough, I'm not going to have this engagement. And to your point, what happens with, and I know many of them, they become very lonely. You know, it becomes a very lonely world because it's all about the next post instead of engaging in a great dinner conversation with Sharon Blaine, you know, face to face. And I think that, you know, when someone throws the word out there to me like, oh, that person is an icon, I say, you know, I literally, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. And I say, you have no idea. You have to do your life's work to be called an icon.
Icon isn't a 24-year-old.
No, it is not even close.
350,000 followers. That ain't an icon.
No.
That's just sheer luck and goodness. And savviness when it comes to being able to post.
And look, and I think that we can learn a lot from this.
Yes.
And I think that again, this is nothing against those who are out there, you know, really trying to make that difference. But like everything, you know, when I go to a city and I look up a hotel on a review, I know which reviews not to read just because someone wants to gripe and complain, right?
Yeah.
So now I think we're all learning who to really follow and engage in for the fact of are they just out there because of the shock value of what they're delivering, or as I like to say, the sitcom on social media? Are they just that TV show on social media? Or are they someone who really has content that is worthy of our industry?
Yeah. Well, Candy, you've done some amazing things. You have just created such an amazing brand. The salon is successful. Let me ask you just one question. You've won so many awards. You've been recognized for so many different things. Is there any particular award or recognition that you just hold so dear and felt so proud?
Well, I would have to say the award of being a mother has been the greatest reward of my life. Being able to, be the daughter of a man and a woman who, my father had an eighth grade education, and I never went to beauty school, and I never went to college. And to be able to stand up and to receive something like an Educator of the Year or these great awards, they're all wonderful accolades, and I've been lucky enough to not only win things in business and women in business, but I really don't take that too seriously in my life. And they're all wonderful and great, but I think my greatest reward is the last student I taught that got it, and that is just, that's really what fuels me. It's not a piece of crystal. It's not a stage and a microphone as much as it is a spirit and a heart that I can touch along the way.
Wow, that's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow, I could be here forever, and I know you've just given me exactly half an hour, and we're just about hit half an hour. These last few days have absolutely been sensational. To have you welcome us into your home, to stay, to learn to connect with your beautiful little dog, Levi, who I'm just going to break my heart to leave. Such a beautiful dog, wonderful husband, beautiful family, and to have been privileged enough to work in your beautiful academy. The students absolutely loved coming. They were also excited to be at Candy Shaw's academy. I can't thank you enough for how generous you've been towards us this week. It's been absolutely wonderful. But also just generous of your time today, because I feel that what you've shared is, half an hour of absolute gold for these people listening to it. I think your ideas, your business thought process and things like that are just what we need to hopefully keep our industry, heading in the right direction. If people take a little bit of your information today and nurture it and work with it, I think everyone will be better off for that.
Well, you're very sweet to say that, Sharon, and we feel the same way, and that's what family does for family, and it's been an honor to have you here. But I leave your listeners with this one last little advice. You are only as good as how you pay it forward and you share your gifts. And that's something you've been doing your whole life too. And I have such respect for that when I meet someone like you who has always been giving back to this industry. And for many years we didn't share our secrets.
Yes.
And I think now, with the platforms that we have, with podcasts and with, obviously the digital age, I think I would say to everyone out there, share your secrets, because that little bit of nugget of gold that can touch someone's life could honestly change it forever.
Yes, I agree. So well said. Well, thank you, Candy.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All my listeners enjoyed this hairy chat with Candy Shaw.
Well, that's it for this conversation with Candy Shaw. What an incredible woman she is. I mean, I can't believe the information and the enthusiasm that she shares with us in this interview. On our next episode of Hairy Chats, we talk with my favourite and dear friend, Dean Banowitz. He's the most amazing guy. He's the Hollywood hairdresser. He's got some great stories for you. Until next time, bye for now.